1965, my dad's 23 years old, out of the Army, attends University of Wyoming for his first semester in college because he has a romantic vision of the Great Plains of America.
That's right.
He's wayward, doesn't know what to do. His father says engineering's a good degree, so he takes engineering classes, but they're boring.
Very boring.
And he stops attending and flunks out. But he gets an education anyways, because he meets a bunch of hippie types.
The counterculture.
The counterculture of musicians into protest folk music. Beat poets.
Howl. Howl.
Allen Ginsberg's Howl.
Everybody was howling.
Avant-garde theater like Waiting for Godot. He meets a girl who teaches him how to listen to classical music, especially Chopin, while listening to the LPs and following along with the score.
That's how it happened.
She lives in a dorm where other women are restricted by when they can leave and when they can come back, and they can't have boys in the room unless, like her, she lives in the garden departments and he can slip in through the window.
I remember that.
Just like this window right here, which happens to be the exact place he leaves after one semester. 5 years later is back in LA, meets my mom, starts a career in psychology, and is a family man with my sister and I. Does that sound right?
That's correct.
What were your impressions of the landscape?
Well, the landscape for the geysers was actually beautiful, with the mineral water and the colors of the deposits of the microbes, and many different colors. With all the smoke or the steam coming up almost everywhere, actually. So do you remember when we were on top of the mountain? It was like 8,500 feet high. It was cold, and there was this traffic jam. As it turned out, that all the people looking up the mountains to those bears.
Right. We saw two bears. They looked like grizzly bears, and there were a bunch of people on the side of the road with big cameras and telephoto lenses watching them, and
Yeah.
we saw them through the binoculars.
Yeah, and the report was that actually it was in carcass of a moose that one of the bears took possessions for because there were a lot of blackbirds who was trying to get, or maybe they were vultures, I don't know, trying to get a piece of the carcass. What I really liked is the inn, Old Faithful Inn, built in the early 1900s, and the inside was actually was a stucco or sort of what's it called?
Oh, the scaffolding?
The scaffolding, wooden scaffold. It looked like wooden scaffolding in a formation of tree branches. It was really cool.
It looked like a big tree house.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, so we go up to the top of the mountain, 85,000 feet, and then we descended. And descending into the valley,
Well, right, the river.
it was grandiose to me.
Yeah,
I liked it.
The Yellowstone Lake.
Right.
Right.
Big
Down
lake.
there. Huge lake, beautiful lake.
Will you just stop using that clip? It's really creeping me out.
I kind of like it though. It's ghostly. It's like you're a living ghost.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Okay. Maybe if I'll play Big Red.
Many words come to mind. Good feeling, feeling closeness. That's what comes to mind. What else? Thai food, Mexican food.
My final thoughts is good to spend time together, and it felt kind of long with all the driving, but it was nice to get a tour of the countryside. Got a great tour of what the countryside looks like in this part of America, which is what I hope for. And it was smooth sailing.
I like to talk about intuition because I think it's a legitimate faculty that every person has access to within themselves, so I like to promote it by sharing my own experiences. I tend to be aware of my impressions before events and then see if the impressions match up with the event themselves without trying to make the two fit together and get a false positive. Before this trip, I had the very clear impression many times over, every time I thought about it, of grayness, like overcast, and a kind of emotion that's sort of like how you might feel when the day is overcast, mellow, low energy. But at the same time, it felt like everything was all good. How one interprets their impressions, that's a whole nother story. But that's the impression that I got invariably. And the impression didn't match up for the first part of the trip, from Denver through Laramie through Thermopolis, because the spirit of the spirit between my dad and I was very enthusiastic. But then it changed around Yellowstone when it got cold and snowy and we got snowed in, and the whole trip kind of became a lot more mellow. And then every city we visited, except for Denver, but also including Laramie and Thermopolis, was almost deserted. There's barely anyone on the road, barely anyone on the streets. Turns out we're kind of at the end of the season, lots of places were closing up at the end of the week, and everybody was kind of gone and done for the year. So it did give the whole trip a kind of quiet, mellow spirit about it as well, because no one was around and no one was on the road. And that's not something I anticipated, because honestly I don't really pay attention to tourist seasons, and I didn't do a whole lot of research for this trip. And it's also interesting to compare how it could have been if enthusiastic the whole time, or even combative or argumentative or something, which would have been unusual between my dad and I, but still, you never know. No problems as well. There could have been a lot of little issues like car breakdowns or, complications that occurred. So, considering all the things that could have happened, that intuition I feel is like straight on, and interesting to note that I had that invariably, and though it didn't fit in the beginning part of the trip, for the most part it did.